Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we are taking a look at the New York Islanders and what is the most important thing for them going into 2023. I feel like a broken record talking about the Islanders in this context, but we're going to try and do it again here in 2023, and hopefully Lou wakes up from his nap, his long-term nap, and is able to kind of rewrite the ship for the New York Islanders here in 2023. So there's two ways to look at the New York Islanders and what they need to do. Now, the easy answer is the Islanders need to do this one thing, and that is find a scoring winger. But it's not necessarily that easy, because if it was, the Islanders would have one right now and nobody would be complaining about it. But the reality is the Islanders, the way they've been the last couple years in Barry Trotz's system, it's very hard to attract a player to your organization when the Islanders' defensive mentality kind of hinders the offensive side of the game. And a lot of players that the Islanders have tried to acquire, whether they really were in the sweepstakes or not, like Johnny Gaudreau this past year, well, the reality is, the Islanders weren't in on Johnny Gaudreau. But why? Why weren't they on Johnny Gaudreau? Now, there's a couple ways to look at that, and many other players around the league. There's really three ways to look at it. The first way is the Islanders going out of their way not to be interested in those players for one reason or another, whether that's the salary cap or they just think that they don't fit the Islanders' style of play and they're not the guys that the Islanders are necessarily going after. And I think that is a huge part of it. The second factor here is the player itself not wanting any interest in the Islanders, and I think there is some of that here as well. If you're looking at a 100-point player like Matt Duchene or JT Miller or whoever that player is, do you really think with Barry Trotz's defense first approach, are those guys going to put up 100 plus points on the island? It's not going to happen. That's just straight up facts. And then the third reason, which I think the third reason is more of just, is it the incompetency of the Islanders front office? So the first one was the Islanders going out of their way, knowing, all right, we are purposely not going to go after that player. Or the third option here, like I'm saying, which is maybe the more concerning one, and that the one that I think a lot of Islander fans are thinking today, is Lou a competent GM at this point? Because Lou has not really done much. The Islanders missed the playoffs last year after going to the Eastern Conference Finals, taking Tampa to the brink 2 consecutive years in a row, and then missing the postseason last year was kind of a damning scenario for the Islanders. The Islanders were a team that was supposed to go into the playoffs last year and continue their success, and that did not happen that way. So I think it's critical here for the Islanders to make a move and get that scoring winger. But here's the other side of it. And this maybe leads more into the, further down the route of that third option here, is the Islanders' incompetency. So, if that's the case, should the Islanders be trying to go for a Stanley Cup? Now, I'm kind of torn here, because you could look at it in the sense of, well, the Islanders, you look at their record right now, they're not a playoff team. If the playoffs started today, the Islanders would not be in the postseason. By mere points, it's very close, but they wouldn't be in the postseason. They are tied with the Penguins for the last wild card spot, that second wild card spot, and technically Pittsburgh has the head up on that. So the Islanders would not be in the postseason today. So with that scenario, there's a lot on the line here for the Islanders. So there's two ways to look at it. Either you mortgage more of the future, say Arttu Räty, Simon Holmstrom, those types of players, at the cost of winning this season. And I understand going for it, right? But there's also that very scary idea that you go for it. And what happens if you don't win the cup? Because I hate to say it, unless you win the cup, it's not worth it. And ask the Florida Panthers how things worked out for them last year when they went for it. Right? They traded for Brandon Montour, who stuck around. Claude Giroux, who costed them a really good prospect in Owen Tippett and some draft pick capital, they got bounced in the first round. Or the second round. Yeah, the second round against Tampa did the Florida Panthers. And they went all in last year. And now they're without Giroux. They ended up keeping Montour, but they lost Tippett, those draft picks, and Giroux. So the Islanders have to be careful going into this deadline with the idea of, say, a Bo Horvat, who the Islanders have been very much linked to. If you're giving up Arttu Ratu, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, Samuel Bolduc, whatever the assets are, the Islanders have to make sure that this is past this season. They have to look, and it's frustrating because it's just easy to say, well, how much longer do the Islanders have here? You know, Varlamov is a pending UFA this summer. The best goalie tandem in the league might not be next year. You look at some other factors. The money. The money side of things is a real thing for the Islanders here. As you're starting to see guys like Wahlstrom, who's on the final year of his deal. Dobson's going to be getting a big raise in the next couple of years. Scott Mayfield's contract is due this offseason, and that might be a good or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. But nonetheless, the Islanders have to, before they figure out anything, they have to decide, are we going to go for it this year, or are we going to stay status quo and let the process take its course? And I think the best approach is to stay status quo. I know that's not something that Islanders fans want to hear. I'm with you on that. But how much better is Simon Holmstrom or Arttu Ratu or Samuel Bolduc gonna mean to you next year than Bo Horvat this year? How much value are you willing to put into this year's Bo Horvat for the next 2 or 3 years of some of these young players they could be trading away? I'd rather get more kicks at the can in the first round of the playoffs and qualifying for the playoffs than for this season knowing for a fact I'll make the playoffs, and that's not even guaranteed necessarily, especially in this Metropolitan Division. Even adding Bo Horvat, you can't say with 100% certainty the Islanders will make the playoffs with him in the lineup. Is that the best approach? And I think if you look at some of those guys, like a Bo Horvat, or guys that are available, or Patrick Kane, they're going to probably want to look into the free agent market July 1st. And do the Islanders want to find themselves as the team that, yeah, they took the chance on him and went for him at the trade deadline, but ultimately came up short July 1st to their same teams that they've struggled to beat out in free agency? The Boston Bruins, the New York Rangers, and even to a lesser extent, the New Jersey Devils. So this is something that has to be put on the table for the Islanders. They have to answer this question, because until they answer the question of, are we going all in it this year or not, kind of plays into, should they add a scoring winger? Now, nonetheless, I think the Islanders need a scoring winger. Whether that's a Tyler Toffoli trade, we saw that the Calgary Flames pulled off last season, and a package, but was a reasonable package in return, or going all in for a big player. The Islanders have to decide what they're going to do, but the Islanders cannot have a good playoff run if they don't have that scoring guy. They just can't. They've gone after that. They've kicked that can down the road way too long here. They've swung and missed on so many high-end goal-scoring potential players, and they haven't brought them to Long Island. Do I need to crack that list out again? And whether they should have been, whether they really were in on this guy or not, the question still remains: why weren't they in on those guys to begin with? Right? Johnny Gaudreau, Matt Duchene, Artemi Panarin. The Islanders should have been in on those guys, but they weren't. At the end of the day, the Islanders are still left with nothing. And there are so many teams around the league that, for better or for worse, have made trades to bring in those players, right? You look at, say, a good example, Calgary, right? Calgary found a way to bring in Tyler Toffoli. Los Angeles, for 2 years in a row. Last year, they brought in Victor Arvidsson. This year they brought in Kevin Fiala. Why can't the Islanders make those same trades? Are teams just deciding not to trade with the Islanders and Lou Lamoriello? Maybe there's a little bit of that, right? I don't want to trade with Lou because if he's making the trade, he probably thinks he's going to get a good deal. Kind of like the Steve Yzerman effect with the Red Wings. So, is it that? Or is it Lou not doing his due diligence? And the fact that the Islanders weren't at least talking to Johnny Gaudreau? Or maybe that was just Gaudreau saying that? I don't know. It leads me to believe the Islanders aren't doing their work to put themselves in a position to land these said players. So let me know what you guys think down below. Which player is it this year that the Islanders are going to be linked to? Because I think right now the easy front runner is Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane and Bo Horvat. Realistically, the Islanders won't get either one of them. But let me know what you guys think down below. What player do the Islanders have to add this year to fix things? Or what's the one thing you guys think that the Islanders need to do in 2023? Of course, winning the Stanley Cup is the end-all be-all, but what do the Islanders need to do to get to that point? Do they need to sell off this year to get better next year? Do they have to add that one piece this year, like Butch Goring, for the Islanders, ring of Stanley Cups? What do the Islanders need to do this year? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time.